Brazil is building a giant mosquito factory to combat dengue fever. Here's what you need to know. I originally found the article on Nature News, but I've been having trouble accessing it on my desktop computer due to the institutional stuff. So instead, we're looking at these secondary news sources. But this is actually put on by the World Mosquito Program. They are a global nonprofit who's been operating for, I believe, over a decade, specifically to fight mosquito-borne illnesses. And they do so by utilizing Wolbachia, which is a type of bacteria. And this is a method that they've actually been doing for quite a while. They have several published papers that look at both laboratory results as well as field studies to determine the efficacy of using this bacteria for mosquito-borne diseases. And I've been perusing their website, but even beyond just their website, you can actually look up their published papers. And they found that in the lab, the Wolbachia can actually be almost 100% effective in stopping mosquito-borne transmission. My understanding is that it essentially outcompetes other bacteria, other viruses, other diseases, so the ones that are harmful to us, like dengue, yellow fever, Zika, etc., just can't survive in the populations. Now, laboratory results are laboratory results. Of course, this is great in a vacuum, but how does that compare to actually out in the field? And that's when I found this paper published from them, which is absolutely incredible. Is this the right paper? Is this the right paper? I believe so. This is actually, sorry, the first paper I was on was the correct paper. So what they did was that a randomized controlled study. So this isn't just an N of 1. This is actually a very rigorous study. So just looking at the abstract here, the full paper is linked down below. Essentially, they randomly assigned 12 geographic clusters to receive deployments of mosquitoes infected with the Wolbachia bacteria. Again, this is intentionally infected. And then an additional 12 clusters that had no deployments. This is their control group. So this is actually a really well done study to test their efficacy. They had 8,100 participants. So again, not an N of 1, with about half-half living in control clusters and the other half living in non-control clusters. So this is just classic randomized control studies. These are so well done because you can actually tell real differences. Now, the main conclusion from this, of course, I encourage you, go through the methods, go through the results, actually read the paper, come to your conclusions. But the protective efficacy of the intervention was 77%. That means that mosquitoes infected with the Wolbachia have a 77% efficacy in terms of not transmitting harmful diseases. It is actually really, really impressive that they have such a high number. And so again, how does this relate to Brazil? Well, Brazil has some of the highest rates of dengue fever in the world. There are several million cases almost every year. I believe it's 3.1 million over a 5-year span. It is massive. It is a massive problem. And currently, the way that most mosquito control methods are done is through chemical insecticides. And I say chemical insecticides not to say that chemicals are bad, but that's just the form of delivery. And in the United States, it is often through this method called NALED, which is an insecticide that has been registered in the United States since 1959. As of recording, it is actually applied to about 16 million acres every single year in order to specifically control mosquito populations. But this is just a plane or a truck or something going through an area and spraying the pesticides the insecticides indiscriminately throughout the area. It is dilute, so about 1 to 2 tablespoons of NALED. I don't know how to pronounce that, by the way. It could be NALED, could be NALED, could be NALED, I don't know. But 1 to 2 tablespoons are applied per acre. So while that does seem like a very small amount, of course, the toxicity of the application in question is the main concern. And in fact, on the EPA's own website, they do have many notes about the toxicity risk to humans as well as the surrounding ecosystem. It is potential outdoor surfaces residues could pose a risk to young children if a child contacts an outdoor surface when a lead was deposited shortly after aerial application. It is usually recommended to clean off barbecue gear or any outdoor cooking utensils, as well as put away things that you don't want to be covered with insecticides. And there are, yeah, here we go. Special precautions: stay indoors, don't let children play. If you are outdoors, rinse your skin and eyes with water. Of course, they do need to be overly cautious with anything they say. Even if this was 100% safe and effective for humans, they would probably say this exact same thing, but it is not a perfectly harmless chemical. And in fact, when we talk about it with wildlife, because this is not targeting mosquitoes, it is an insecticide sprayed through the air, and it does have unintended consequences. Naled is an insecticide. Invertebrates such as insects, crustaceans, and spiders could be affected, and wildlife present in the immediate treated area could be affected shortly after spraying occurs. They do say long-term effects are not expected, but if you are, well, removing insects from a population that form the basis of a food web, you're going to have downstream effects no matter what you do. And I'm speaking about this chemical application because we don't have too many great options elsewhere that are effective. Like Naled is effective for curbing mosquito populations. It does need to be reapplied, and it is applied regularly, but it is effective. However, what the people at the World Mosquito Program are getting at is that we do not need to mass spray insecticides in order to control an insect that is harmful to human health. Instead, we can use bacteria, Wolbachia. And at first, I know you might be thinking, well, isn't that a problem? Are we introducing a bacteria out into the wild where it could have potential negative side effects? What is going to happen if it spreads to other organisms? What is the potential side effects of this organism? We, of course, have seen Jurassic Park. We've, of course, been inundated with science fiction movies where a bacteria goes haywire and takes over the brains of humanity. But according to reports from the CDC, mosquitoes with Wolbachia do not really pose that much of an issue because 6 out of 10 of all types of insects already have Wolbachia. It's already present in many, many other taxa. So it's not really introducing a new bacteria out into the wild. It's rather utilizing one that is already found and is relatively inconsequential and putting it into mosquitoes who don't really have Wolbachia for whatever reason. So what we're kind of doing is putting out sick mosquitoes, if you want to, reduce it down to that way. But this is such fascinating technology. It exists at this cutting edge modern conservation where we're not eradicating wildlife for conservation anymore. Instead, we are using the tools found in nature, modifying them in a beneficial way for both nature and for humans. I'm not at all, I have honestly never heard of the World Mosquito Program before this. I don't know if they're like huge and I'm just, unknown, but they have worked globally. They've worked in many, many different areas, many different cultures. Their website is super, super interesting, and they have everything that's very transparent. You can find all of their papers. You can find a full timeline of how they determined Wolbachia is an amazing resource for mosquito control. And I highly recommend going to them for more information or doing your own research and reading the papers that have been published on this incredible science. So that's it. I just wanted to share something that I found really, really cool. And yeah, what do you think about this? I want to know what is going through your head as you're learning more about World Mosquito Program, about Wolbachia, and about potentially releasing billions of genetically modified is maybe a little bit tricky, but mosquitoes that have a genetically modified Wolbachia into the wild. Leave it down in the comments, and yeah, have a great day.